Our next topic for discussion is obedient. Joseph as an obedient man. I'd like to explore with you this engraving by Christophoros Blancos, which is found in a little book called The Summary of the Excellencies of St. Joseph, which was written in 1597. And in this engraving, we can see the Holy Family is in an internal space. They're in an interior setting. Mary and Jesus are at the front of the scene. They are preparing a fish for the family meal. They've got a pretty decent fire going, I have to say. And there's a dog playing at their feet, and dogs were often a sign of faithfulness and fidelity. And they're surrounded by elements of domestic life, different bowls, pots, things like that. In the background, we see Joseph having a sleep, and he's got his tools, he's got wooden planks around him, so he's clearly in his workspace. And the angel is descending and whispering into his ear. And this is really a beautiful combination of the action of everyday life, the action of our work life, but also the contemplation that comes with reflection, with really listening to God and with following what God's asking us to do, and is really a visualization of the obedience that Joseph had to practice during his life. Pope Francis explores this obedience in Patris Corde. Obedience made it possible for him to surmount his difficulties and spare Mary. In every situation, Joseph declared his own fiat, like those of Mary at the Annunciation, and Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. I don't know if you've ever heard of the marshmallow experiment. It's basically when a young child, maybe 5 years old at the most, is placed by themselves in a room with marshmallow, just one marshmallow, and an adult, maybe their parent or someone else, tells them, now I'm just going to leave the room for a sec. You can't eat the marshmallow until I come back. And the child doesn't know that they're being filmed the whole time. And what they do is often pretty funny. It's really interesting to watch, and I think it teaches us a lot about ourselves too, our own lives, and how ready we are to be obedient. If we think about what happened with Joseph had several dreams during his life, moments where he was given instruction to follow, and he didn't really have the opportunity in those situations to question, to seek clarification, or even to say, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Why? Because he was asleep. And we know that when he woke up from sleep, he does exactly what the angel tells him to do. So he takes Mary as his wife, we know. He goes from Israel to Egypt. He goes back from Egypt to Israel and eventually settles in Nazareth. So he acts in quite huge ways, and not having much more to go on besides a dream. But he acts in complete obedience, with complete trust, with being able to say, even when things seem to be out of his control or pretty undesirable or not really the way that he would have it, or pretty scary even, he's able to say, fiat, so thy will be done. And in the same way, he's an inspiration for us, an encouragement for us to try and be able to say our own fiat, our own thy will be done, our own your way, not necessarily my way, in our own ordinary, everyday events of life. Our next topic for discussion is accepting. Joseph's acceptance of different life situations. The artwork we're going to look at here is Rosso Fiorentino's Marriage of the Virgin. And as the title would suggest, it's Mary and Joseph getting married. We see that they're standing on a kind of a level platform with steps before them, and their hands are being joined by a priest. They're surrounded by a huge crowd of people. You know, some of the people even fade into the darkness in the background. And interestingly, some of these people we can say definitely would not have been there when Mary and Joseph were married. For example, at the very bottom of the painting, we see a woman who kind of reminds me of a mythological creature or a sibyl, and she's holding a book or writing tablet, which is symbolic of prophecy, the messianic prophecy, or the coming of Jesus as the Saviour. Then behind her, we've got a Dominican priest who we know definitely was not existing at the time of this marriage. And he's being quite helpful for us actually, as he's directing our eyes up to Mary and Joseph, saying, that's where you got to look. If we look at Mary and Joseph, we see that they're very similar in age. Mary actually has her hand on her belly as a sign of her pregnancy. And Joseph is really very young, very handsome, very, very physically strong, and he's actually stepping forward in a gesture and an indication that he is accepting this situation. He's willing, he's ready to take Mary as his wife. He actually wants to. He's not being pushed. And that's a beautiful indication for us of how, as we've mentioned, even with these situations happening for him that were unknown, that were out of his control, he's able to say, yes, yeah, I'll keep going, I'll take it as it is. Pope Francis talks about this accepting quality of Joseph in Patris Corde, where he says, Joseph is certainly not passively resigned, but courageously and firmly proactive. The faith Christ taught us is what we see in St. Joseph. He did not look for shortcuts, but confronted reality with open eyes and accepted personal responsibility for it. Joseph's attitude encourages us to accept and welcome others as they are, without exception, and to show special concern for the weak, for God chooses what is weak. I think we can safely say that our world has become very fast-paced and very instantaneous. We don't have to look far to see examples, you know. Even just open your kitchen cupboard, you might see cup of soup, or, you know, instant noodles or instant coffee. Turn on the TV, you might have Netflix, or you might have another streaming service. You know, going down the street sometimes, and we're going somewhere important, and we find that we hit every single red light ever known to man, and we're sitting in the traffic thinking, oh my gosh, like, how come I can't just get a green light? I have to be at this place right now. So our world has become so accustomed and so attuned to our impatience, to our fast-paced lives, that when we have to wait for something, when we have to slow down, it's very difficult. Joseph in his life, he was, as Pope Francis says, he wasn't able to take shortcuts. He wasn't able to say, yeah, I just want to cut corners, I just want the easy way out, you know, I'll go about it my own way. He had to go through things, often the hard way. And he's a real example for us, a real inspiration for us again, of how to really take on what's happening to us, the events and situations that we can't we can't cut corners in. We have to go the full way. We have to take it as it comes, step by step. He really helps us to know how to accept those with love, with strength, and with faithfulness, and to do so also readily and with joy, I think. So he's a real guide and instruction for us in that way.